baptized. My soul is anchored in Jesus Christ. I feel all right. I stepped down into that water one day and the water was chilling cold.
Gay atheists. It would be gospel music from the 50s. You know what I'm saying? Did anybody see the Blind Boys of Alabama at the Hayti Center in Durham last weekend? There was so much going on, Carol, last weekend. I was like this close to buying the $30 ticket. And then I thought about SparkCon. And it was like, let's see. Queer-looking fire dancers and fashion show in downtown Raleigh, or the 5 Blind Boys of Alabama for free, or the 5 Blind Boys of Alabama, or the Blind Boys of Alabama. I think one of them died, and then they replaced them with a couple others in Durham, and I chose the fire dancing. There was a drum circle Friday night, Carol, in downtown Raleigh. Beautiful, gorgeous drumming under the stars. It was just one of the It was just one of the most beautiful, beautiful things. We were going to have a guest tonight, Hugh Holloway from the Love Wins Ministry. That is the main organization, or one of the organizations that's been attacked. And I think, Carol, attacked is the only word, by the city of Raleigh, mostly staffers without the oversight of the city council or mayor, deciding suddenly that they were going to do something about the scourge, Carol, the scourge of feeding the homeless in Moore Square. And we're going to look at this very closely today. But anyway, Hugh, I called Love Wins, and Hugh was supposed to be on tonight. He's feeling kind of poorly. He couldn't make it, and so we're going to have him on sometime in the future, I hope. But in case you haven't been following this, there have been new developments. One of the things, yeah, is this the first? Yeah, the first question. One of the things that's key here is that the Love Wins Ministries people have said they were told by city staffers they don't know, city staff doesn't know how this could have possibly happened, that this mixed message got sent to them. The NNO on Sunday published the emails that they got from the city of Raleigh. And Carol, it's worth noting that the NNO asked for all the emails and only got them up to August 11th, which is 2 weeks before the threats of arrest. So it is reasonable to assume that there were more conversations between the police and city staffers. Remember, we're not talking about city council or the mayor, who's just basically a glorified city councilwoman at this point in Raleigh. We're talking about city staffers who made these decisions, the parks director, and others saying, we're going to start enforcing these laws that we've never enforced before about distributing food on the sidewalks, right? City staffers told the Love Wins people that they had no idea how this happened. The NNO got hold of emails up to August 11th that showed lots of legal discussions. They were talking to the town attorney, and who also didn't talk to the city council people, we're led to believe, we'll accept that at face value, about how to best to kick these people out of Moore Square. Remember, the city has plans for developing Moore Square. And we're going to look a little bit closer at the language being used by city staffers and the News and Observer editorial board in what can only be called a disgusting editorial in the paper yesterday. I think, or was it today? Which day was it? Hang on, I've got it right here. It was yesterday. A disgusting editorial, and of course, the House editorials from the NNO are unsigned. So we don't know the specific people who came up with this, except Orridge Quarles, the publisher, ostensibly gave his stamp to it. But we don't know the names of the people who are on the editorial board of the NNO, or who wrote this, or who, there's no names on these editorials. They think that means that you'll think that it's the building, Carol. The building of the NNO building, which is just a block that way. The NNO building has an opinion on the feeding of the homeless in Moore Square, not any of the people. So we don't need to sign our name. It's the most disgusting practice newspapers do. In an age where owning your words on the internet is important, and anonymous comments are a blight on the landscape of newspapers everywhere, the N&O still publishes House editorials without a single name attached and doesn't publish anywhere on the masthead the names of the people who write those unsigned editorials. It's disgusting. Okay, anyway, back to the point. The point is, the N&O printed a really horrible editorial yesterday. We'll get to the specific language of that later. Let me back up a little bit. City staffers, the N&O got the emails, printed them Sunday, just up through August 11th. See, now I'm really backing up, Carol. I've had a busy day. I don't get paid for this. I pay to do this. So that's my excuse every time I lose my train of thought. But here's the point. There are 2 weeks of emails that the city of Raleigh chose not to release yet. The 2 weeks right before the police went to the Love Wins people and said, we're going to arrest you if you serve the sausage biscuits that you have in your hands right now. That's what happened Saturday morning. You've got the sausage biscuits. The cops walk up and say, we're going to arrest you if you serve these homeless people any of these delicious sausage biscuits. And coffee. That's what happened. And during the 2 weeks before the cops made that decision, the city of Raleigh has so far failed to release the emails. They've released the emails up to August 11th, but the 2 weeks between August 11th, now why? Because that's where the juicy stuff is. Carol, you're so good. Carol's so good with a turn of phrase. City staff are consistently lying about how much they knew. If you read the N&O article from Monday, charities want to keep food handouts near Raleigh's Moore Square. Hugh Holloway, who was supposed to be our guest tonight but who couldn't make it, said, you know what? He says they lied to us when they claimed they were unaware. They told Love Wins Ministries, we are unaware of how the crackdown came about. This is not the council or the mayors. And there's a larger issue here, Carol, that we've harped on before on the show, which is that we have a weak city council, strong city manager kind of government. It gives a ton of power. We have half-time, low-salary city councilors and mayors. There's one staff woman, Carol, who answers the phone for all of the city council members. I tried calling Bonner Gaylord, and boy, Bonner Gaylord's quick to respond on Twitter when you're joking. But when you have a serious question, Bonner, where are you? Where's Bonner Gaylord? Come on, Bonner. I know you saw my tweet. Respond to me. Let's talk. Anyway, Bonner Gaylord, who wants to be mayor someday, but can't stop himself from making jokes about applicants to the city manager's position, Carol, who still have AOL accounts. This is the maturity level of Bonner Gaylord, right? Yay, people are applying to be city manager of Raleigh. Let's make jokes on Twitter about their email accounts. Yeah, way to go, Bonner. There's no human resources issues there. What an idiotic move. But anyway, so Bonner, I will treat you with respect when you're here. Give me a call. Let's talk. All right. So we're talking, the larger issue, let me back up. The larger issue is that we have a weak city council, a weak mayor, and a strong city staffing department. That's how Raleigh is set up. Most other cities do not have that set up, in my opinion. Maybe not most, but many other cities don't have that set up. They have full-time city councilors and the staffers who defer to the city councilors instead of the other way around. It's a problem in Raleigh that city staffers think they're more powerful than city council members. We have no representation with city staffers. We do have representation with city councilors. That's the larger background here. So I'm not talking about the mayor and the city councilor. When they claim that they had no knowledge of this, I kind of believe it. I'm a little skeptical, but I kind of believe it. But the city staffers who told Hugh Holloway and Love Wins Ministries, we have no idea how this happened, they're lying. They lied. And they're still withholding 2 weeks' worth of emails, the 2 weeks' worth of emails right before the crackdown happened. Why? Cover your ass mode, Carol, right? They want to delay it. We should be protesting in front of the city attorney's office every morning until the full emails of the 2 weeks before the crackdown are released. There. I know there's Syria, there's bombings, there's sarin gas, there's people with mental illness not getting treated and going off with guns, easily available guns, all over the Navy Yard. I mean, I know there are bigger problems, but this is one we can do something about. So, larger issues. I'm just trying to paint the larger portrait here. City staffers are out of control, and we have a 2-week city council. That's what's happening here. That's the larger issue. Now, the specific issue of the feeding the homeless in Moore Square is more interesting. One of the things that came out in the Independent this week's Independent, can we show that, Carol? There we go. Their election guide is here. And Carol, I don't 100% endorse the Independent's election guide. The Indy, in 9 out of 10 of the last elections, there's been at least 2, maybe 3 races that the Indy has gotten wrong. However, if you're looking for a quick and easy election guide to take with you into the voting booth on October 8th, this is the one. It's a good one. But also compare it with other local groups' voting guides, right? Don't just use one. Use a number of them. I'm contradicting myself, but use a number of them. Anyway, this week, Jane Porter in the NNO has a really good article. Raleigh deals with more fallout from the Moore Square crackdown. And she points out that Public Affairs Director Jane Kirkpatrick wrote in an email to city staff on July 10th, "We are developing a public information campaign on the harm that is done by persons feeding the homeless in Moore Square." Carol, let me pull out a few words there. The harm that is done by persons feeding the homeless. Now, Moore Square, Carol, you see, is across from Marbles, the Kids Museum. What exactly is the nature of the harm? A lot of people are throwing around the arrests and the police calls to Moore Square. How many of those calls happen on Saturday and Sunday during the day? How many of those police calls were for violent crimes? How many were for people urinating in the streets? Not a pleasant sight, I assure you, I understand. But how many of those police calls happen during the day? Saturday and Sunday during the feedings. If the problem is litter, then litter can be solved as a problem. There's trash cans, Carol points out. But the point is the litter problem is minor. It is. We can fix that. It's fixable. That's what I meant to say. It's minor and fixable. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It's fixable. And a city should be saying, let's fix it. But instead, they've got this, it's part of a larger plan to shove the homeless out of sight of people who come downtown. I find that impulse disgusting. What's the problem, parents, if you see homeless people in Moore Square when you take your kid to Marbles? What's the problem there exactly? You don't want to have to explain why you live in a country that allows people to live on the streets? You don't want to explain why we have an economy and a mental health system that allows people to fall through the cracks? Well, that's something you need to explain to your kids. The News and Observer articulated this really elegantly and precisely yesterday. In a perfect mealy-mouthed, put up number 3, Carol, the next one. In a perfectly mealy-mouthed editorial, the unsigned editorial, one problem, says the NNO in this unsigned editorial that has Orridge Quarles' stamp of approval, at least we can assume, is that there are reasonable questions as to whether, because of the location, the free food distributors draw people, are you ready for this, Carol? The free food distributors draw people who are not necessarily destitute. Really, Orridge Quarles? You put your stamp of approval on that sentence? it's a reasonable question as to whether people who are, quote, not necessarily destitute show up for free food? They're the only ones, Carol, so far, who have brought up in print this notion that we should means test the people who show up for food at Moore Square. That has never been part of the conversation before the N&O yesterday suggests that it is reasonable to wonder how many of these people are actually hungry, Carol. Right? That's what they're saying. That's the N&O's contribution to our civic conversation about the homeless being fed in Moore Square. Well, how many of them are truly hungry? They're only a little destitute, Carol says, maybe. Maybe they're just, just on the other side of destitute, but can feed themselves, and free food, we're just attracting the wrong element. That's the N&O yesterday. Or was it 2 days ago? September 17th, yesterday. That's the News and Observer editorial board in their anonymity. Thank you for your anonymity. Why don't you own your damn words, N&O editorial board? Own your damn words. Put your damn names on the masthead. You don't have to sign every editorial, but you should have on the masthead, these are the people that meet once a day or whenever, how many times a week you meet, to write the editorials that show up unsigned on our op-ed page. Put their names on the freaking masthead, N&O. Own your damn words. N&O, in its infinite wisdom, is the first people to say, some of those people don't really deserve free food. That's what they're saying. And whether, this continues, Carol, and whether some of those people could cause worry or disruption for families going to Marbles, for example. Now, the Marbles lady, Carol, has spoken out against the homeless feeding, according to the people at Love Wins. They say they didn't even like the fact that the meeting was held at Marbles. Hugh Holloway said this in the article in the N&O on Monday. He disapproved of the venue for the meeting, Marbles Kids Museum, because of comments made by the museum's director at a recent public hearing. She implied that her patrons are more valuable to the city than the people in the park. This doesn't exactly feel like an impartial setting. This is Marbles' director. Now, she may feel it different. We should call her too, Carol. But she has said, implied, according to Hugh Holloway, that the people who come to Marbles are more important in the city than the people who live in the city but can't afford to feed themselves. That's the key, monkeys. Why can't they coexist? The N&O is implying, right? Here's the key. Whether some of those people could cause worry or disruption. Worry, Carol. Like if you don't like seeing the homeless with your kids, then that's enough to shove them somewhere else. Worry or disruption. What's disruption? Have there been instances where the homeless being fed in Moore Square, whether or not they actually are hungry, Carol, have disrupted parents and children going to Marbles? Or is the nature of the disruption itself the very idea that parents and kids going to Marbles would see a line of homeless people across the square getting free food? The N&O doesn't make that clear in their unsigned editorial. Reasonable questions as to whether the free food distributors draw people who are not necessarily destitute. What a disgusting, vile contribution to this conversation. And whether some of those people who are not hungry, really, and can feed themselves but just come for the free food, could cause worry or disruption to the parents, to the families going to Marbles, for example. This is a classic case of the N&O editorial board consisting of people who go to the same dinner parties as the board of directors of Explorers. Right, Carol? talking to each other without the presence of any homeless people who are hungry, and deciding amongst themselves, we need to do something about these homeless people, many of whom probably aren't hungry to begin with, who just come for the free food and disrupt and worry the parents and children who come to explore us in marbles. That's my impression of what's going on here. And the city developing the park is saying that park is not for everybody. We have 6 minutes left. Yeah, we do have the Matthew Shepard thing to talk about. Here's the key, News and Observer Sunday. Emails sent by the Parks Department leaders, high-ranking police officers in the weeks leading up to the crackdown saying, we need to do something about this. Parks Director Diane Sawyer approved the ban of people trespassing, of people who have had anyone charged with a felony or serious misdemeanors. Notice, this isn't convicted, Carol. You with me? This isn't convicted. This was the Parks Department head, Diane Sawyer, Parks Director, Raleigh Parks Director Diane Sawyer, and the cops saying, according to the NNO, anyone charged with a felony or serious misdemeanors, including assaults, drug violations, and public urination, is going to be trespassed. The policy change was never presented to the City Council, says the NNO on Sunday. Charged, not convicted, charged. You're going to trespass somebody who's been charged. Now, maybe it was convicted and the NNO got that wrong. I welcome the correction. Charged, not convicted. They're going to trespass them from all Raleigh City parks. This change was not run by your elected representatives. It was not discussed publicly. It was shared via emails. And the emails in the 2 weeks leading up to the crackdown, the specific incident, are still being held by the city attorney. City attorney needs to tell the people in those departments those emails need to be released today. All right. What's the solution? They need to stay downtown because that's where public bathrooms are and that's where the buses run. You can't hide them, City of Raleigh. You can't hide homeless people and hungry people. You can't do it. The City of Raleigh has not been negotiating in good faith with the people who have been providing this. The City of Raleigh, can we put up number 1, Carol? Again, the first question. The City of Raleigh staffers have been lying. They've been lying about their involvement in this decision, directly to the people who are doing the feeding. Who are these people? Have they been disciplined? Do they know they can't do this again? That, News and Observer editorial board, is a reasonable question. It is not a reasonable question to ask how many of those people getting free food really deserve it. That is an idiotic question. That has nothing to do with the deeper issue. Means testing? That's what you want for people who get free food? What a disgusting position. All right, so the Matthew Shepard stuff. Can we talk about this, Carol? There's a new book coming out that raises claims about the Matthew Shepard case and the way it was presented to the public to lead to hate crimes legislation nationally, right? And those of us who've been following the case, there's very little new in this new book. We talked, Carol, about Matthew Shepard's meth use way back in the day. I've been doing this show for 15 years, before Matthew Shepard was killed, right? And we were talking at the time about the rumors then, now it's been confirmed, that and it was confirmed back in 2004, that Matthew Shepard was involved in the meth scene in Laramie. There was also evidence back in 2004. 2020 did a story about this. Did y'all miss that? GLAAD objected dramatically, Carol, because the idea that this could be like meth related was not in sync with the plan. But it doesn't change anything. It really doesn't. Matthew Shepard and Aaron McKinney might have been lovers occasionally. Hey, meth. Meth makes you do strange things, Carol. We've all been watching Breaking Bad, right? I mean, meth, will do strange things. Who knows how conflicted Aaron McKinney was? Who knows whether Aaron and Matthew Shepard, Aaron denies it, but people say they saw Matthew Shepard and Aaron at parties together, in limos together, in the meth scene. We know they were friends. We've known this for 8 years, 9 years now, that Matthew Shepard and Aaron McKinney knew one another. The new book is good, I think, because it documents and details evidence and witnesses and names, and apparently, I haven't read it, but apparently, it really does a good job of documenting all the rumors. Except, 45 seconds, that Aaron McKinney still denies that he was bisexual or gay, but other people say I had threesomes with him. There are other witnesses. The point is, McKinney could have still been conflicted. It could have been a scenario where Matthew Shepard and he had been fooling around, but Henderson didn't know that and was in the car, and then McKinney flipped out over that. Henderson says he tried to stop him, but McKinney went nuts. I mean, the idea that meth was involved, that they knew each other, doesn't change the possibility that this was a majorly homophobic crime. And anyone who says it does is ignoring the reality. All right. Take care of each other. We'll see you next week.